Hi again folks, here we are again. This is an old Hornby Railways, I think it's a Class 101 DMU. This was sent to me by a chap called Neil, a different Neil, not Hellion Neil, this is another Neil. And he sent it to me because it used to belong to his granddad, and he says it's not been running too well. It does run, but just not too well. So let's just turn on the power. And off it goes. So this does run backwards and forwards, and to be honest, it doesn't run too badly at all. The motor that's in these things is horrendous. I've got one of these in Intercity Blue, and they're just very noisy, rough running things. So, but we'll see what we can do. Maybe get it running a wee bit smoother and a wee bit quieter. So let's back it into the shed and take it to bits. Okie dokie then, so after my recent Hellion adventures, it's going to be nice to deal with something a little bit more familiar. As I say, I do have the old Triang Intercity one of these. This has got working lights, at least an illuminated destination board thing, and it's got pickups in the dummy car. So we've got a bit of a crack on the top here, which looks like it's been glued. There's a pity the badge is coming away, but yeah, it's an old model. So we'll get a look into this. Take the screw off the top here, and then this lifts off, pulls back, and it's wired up with the lights. See the bulb at the front there. Oh, we've got people in here. Oh, there's a couple missing. Oh. Sorry. A couple of people have found their way into the motor. Oh dear. Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that's possibly just happened in the post, but there's clearly two people missing from the seats there, and they're in the motor. So if I was running it around my track there, those guys have been mangled possibly. However, we'll fish them out once we get the motor out. So undo this screw. Oh, that's cheered me up. Right. This should lift off. Right, there's one of the people. Don't want to break any wires. I need to let you see this. One of the people is actually sitting, I don't know if you can see that, right on top of the worm gear, in front of the brushes. Dearie me. Right, and there's another one. So we'll glue them back in. I'm sure they'll live. Oh yeah, this has got the smooth wheels. You know, my old Triang one's got the serrated wheels that are just horrendous. But this has got the smoother wheels. So if we can get this motor running sweetly, it should run quieter than my one. Yeah, we'll need to desolder this. Let's just rescue this passenger. Oh, that's an old woman. She's not looking too happy. Brushes are in reasonable condition. One's in better condition than the other, but that's okay. That wire off. So we can now get that out of the way. Rightio. And we'll just strip it down. Just won't do anything else, just check the polarity of this magnet. If the coupling towards me, north is to the left. This compass has actually been reversed. My remagnetiser's reversed it. The red used to point north, but now the white points north. Take that out of there. We'll undo these screws. Should remove the pickup plate. And get the wheels out. There's the brushes. There's one brush out. That one. Bit of corrosion on that one. Come on, solder, melt. Come on. There it goes. There we go. Right, get rid of that. The brushes, yeah, just need a clean. So we'll need to remove these bearing clips, which I hate doing. One. Pull the bearing off, there's a little ball bearing. Have to pull back. Now we can get it out. Remove those. And there's the other ball bearing. Okay, so we'll give all that a clean. Might as well take this other clip off. Okay, get the manky brush onto this. Where is it? It's done its usual disappearing act. Okay, we'll do the usual business with the commutator. I'll just give these one gears a bit of a brush because there's a bit of fluff on them. Okay, it's T-cut time. Just do the usual cleaning thing. I'll give it a scoosh. Give the one gears a scoosh. Right. Some contact cleaner in there. And we'll put the brushes in. Let's have a look at the wheels. Okay, and it's got the worst of the crap off them. There we go, nice clean wheels. This positive brush connector is a bit corroded and covered in gunk, so I'll give it a scoosh. A piece of sandpaper. It's better. Okie dokie, I think we can start to think about putting this back together. I'll give these a brush out. Come on, this is always a fiddle. There we are. So we need to fit the bearings. Let's lift them out first of all. And then we'll fill them up with moly grease. This one, pop that on to that one, and then put the clip on. It's one. Right, what am I doing? I need to fit this underneath the magnet. So, okay, we'll try and refit the brushes. Always a fiddle on this type of motor and the spider assembly motor as well. Okay, so we'll remagnetize it. Pop it in here. There, yeah, that. Lift it up a bit. And give it one blast. And then another one. And that should now be remagnetized. I might as well get this on just to keep it together. Right, okay. We'll get a spot of oil. Just where the axles will sit in the chassis. Just a wee touch. Need to make sure the insulated side is on the pickup side. Otherwise you'll end up with a short circuit. Alright, so that's going to go through there. I'll go in here. Get the pickup behind the wheels. Screw that on. That wants to go around the back there, and that's going to be soldered onto that. Right, so we'll get some lubrication on the gears. I've made up a little mixture of lithium grease and Hobby Lube gear oil. You can buy little empty nail varnish bottles, so I thought that would be ideal. And then I can just paint this stuff on because it's a great gear lubricant, you know, mixing grease, white grease, either lithium grease or PTFE grease with oil. Makes a really good lubricant. And using this little brush is really good because it gets right into the teeth of the worm gear. Just resolder the pickup wire onto there. Come on. And now that motor should run. Come on. Okay, so it's not running too well. Especially in reverse. And it's wobbling badly. Why is it wobbling? Wow, that's vicious. Okay, as I've said before, sometimes working on model locomotives can get really weird, and this is one of those occasions. This motor, after it's been fully serviced, runs worse than it did before it was serviced. When it's going in reverse, it's, you know, moving quite a jerky motion, and when it's going forward, this axle here is being shunted from side to side, so it's got a really vicious wobble, and it wasn't doing that before I serviced it. I actually think all the gunk was possibly stopping this axle from getting shunted from side to side. I think it was running pretty badly in reverse, but you know, it wasn't doing that. But it is now. Now that everything's all clean and freed up and running freely, it's just exasperated the problem, I think. So, to cut a long story short, I've done a lot of work off camera because you know, there's a lot of trial and error involved in solving this. So I had a very, very close look using my eye loops at this worm gear, just to see, because I couldn't see anything wrong with the drive gear on the axle. And right enough, when I looked at it close up, the threads were really, really worn. You know, sometimes they were, you know, almost worn through. So I thought, well, if you've got a bad thread up against the axle, that's probably pushing the axle from side to side. And to test that, I took the armature out of my own DMU, fitted it into this motor, and it ran absolutely fine. I thought, yeah, that's all it is, it's just the worm gear. So in my box of bits, I had a spare worm gear, so I took the old one off, that's it there, fitted one that appears to be perfectly fine, and it didn't make any difference. It was still shunting from side to side. Which didn't make any sense. I thought, well, if it runs absolutely fine with the armature and, you know, worm gears from my DMU, what's going on? And then I tried putting the wheels from my DMU in, and it ran fine then, and I thought, right, it must be a combination of a worn worm gear and a worn drive gear. So I've swapped the drive gear out with one of the ones from my DMU. My DMU I've decided to scrap. I don't run it anymore, and I've got a vague idea that I might try and convert it, try and put some kind of Ringfield motor instead of this thing, because I hate this motor. So I've put a drive gear from my DMU in here, and we'll see now if that has made any difference. That's running absolutely fine. Right, okay. Problem finally solved. I say I didn't film that because it took me ages to figure out what was going on, and I was pulling worm gears off and pulling drive gears off axles and stuff, so It would be quite interesting if I'd known what I was actually doing, but sometimes it's just trial and error. It's like, no, turn the camera off and let's just get the problem sorted. Right, so we shall get this back together. I've glued in Mrs. Mackenzie and Mrs. Johnson after the ordeal in the motor. So we need to think about rewiring this up. Just going to put a wee bit of insulin tape around the end of that. Don't want that making contact with anything metal. Right. So that's on. It's funny comparing this to the Hellion that had all the wires all very carefully channeled. This thing, the wires are just everywhere. Screw this back on. I'm wondering if I should tape those wires to that roof. I think we should. Screw that on very gently. They're never quiet, these things, but that seems to be running okay. Right, let's pull it out the shed and get it running on the layout. Okay, this will be noisy, but let's bring it out the shed. So there we go, another old Hornby DMU runs again. I really thought this was going to be a straightforward service, but it was anything but. The gear issue sort of threw me for a bit, as it wasn't making any sense. You know, it was running fine with the armature from my old Triang DMU. You know, it wasn't until I replaced both the worm gear and the drive gear that it ran properly. But I got there in the end though. But I'm just annoyed with myself that I didn't film any of that, so apologies for that. Also off camera, I cleaned up the pickups and wheels on the dummy car, just to make sure that was picking up okay. If this was mine, I'd have wires going from those pickups back to the motor in the drive car, or better still, I'd swap the bogie with the front bogie of the power car and pick up to sort out any stuttering. I mean, this run's actually not too bad over the points, but it did stutter a bit occasionally, and it actually did stop once on one of my points. So, you know, just pick up from that little motor bogie alone is really not good enough. You know, these old things with that particular motor are never quiet, and you know, they almost sound like food mixers. To be honest, it's too loud for me, which is why partly why I've scrapped my old DMU. But I'm going to see if it's possible to fit a quieter motor, something like an old Ringfield or something. I'm not sure how possible that would be, but I might look into that. Anyway, this is working now as well as can be expected, so we'll get it packed up and sent back to Neil. Catch us later, folks.